This is Harsh Dalal, a teenager who seemed unstoppable. At just 19, he was the face of Singapore's new tech generation, a prodigy, a CEO and a student who claimed to run a $25 million company before even finishing Polytechnic. He spoke with confidence, dressed the part, and talked about a team of 120 employees spread across the world. Forbes believed him, the media hyped him, and Singapore celebrated him. They called him a visionary, a wunderkind, a genius who built his empire before adulthood. For a moment, it all looked real. But then the question started. Who were his employees? Where was the office? And why did none of the investors he named exist? Within weeks, the truth surfaced. Forbes erased his name, the media backtracked, and the teenage CEO vanished from the spotlight. This is the story of how one Singaporean student fooled Forbes, the press, and the country, with nothing more than confidence and a company that lived only on paper. Before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor, SumSub. In a world where fake stories and fake startups can fool even the smartest investors, SumSub helps businesses tell the real from the fake. They've just released their Global Fraud Index 2025, ranking 112 countries on their resilience to fraud, and the results are eye-opening. Singapore, once ranked number 1 in fraud resilience, has dropped to 10th place, while Malaysia has fallen more than 50 spots. The index reveals what's driving these shifts, from rising fraud activity and resource accessibility to government intervention and economic health. You can now reserve your full copy, launching this November, to see exactly which types of scams are actually behind these changes and what it all means for global companies in 2025. And this November 19th to 20th, SumSub is hosting the What the Fraud Summit 2025 right here in Singapore, bringing together experts in fintech, AI, and compliance to tackle the next wave of digital fraud. So, if you want to see how the global fraud landscape is evolving and where your country really stands, check out the SumSub Global Fraud Index 2025 and don't miss the Fraud Summit. Tickets are almost gone, links are in the description, and don't forget to use code RDR10 for 10% off. Our story begins with a bright, curious kid in Singapore. Harsh Dalal was not your average teenager. By the time he was 13, he had created his first successful mobile app, a simple screen recording tool that gained surprising traction. Tech came naturally to him. He taught himself to code and dreamed big, idolizing Silicon Valley founders. In secondary school, Harsh teamed up with a few friends to start tinkering on projects. This little hobbyist group would eventually evolve into what he grandly called Team Labs, the startup he would later claim was worth tens of millions. By 17, Harsh was making waves in local media as an up-and-coming entrepreneur. In 2019, a Singapore radio station featured him as a Gen Z CEO in the making, noting he had begun his entrepreneurial journey as early as 11 years old. The buzz only grew from there. He was pitching his startup vision to anyone who would listen. The narrative was irresistible. A teenager supposedly running a company while doing homework. A kid who could code apps in the morning and close investor deals by afternoon. Harsh's big break in publicity came in January 2021. Channel News Asia, CNA, one of Singapore's top news outlets, ran a glowing feature on him. In a slick video that quickly garnered over 900,000 views on YouTube, viewers saw a confident 19-year-old describing how he built Team Labs from scratch. He spoke about balancing school projects with board meetings and credited his family for keeping him humble. In those interviews, Harsh made some jaw-dropping claims. He said Team Labs had secured 9.8 million Singapore dollars in Series A funding since 2017, allegedly from prominent investors. A venture firm called Grand Canyon Capital, another named Startup Capital Ventures, SCV, and even the South Korean sovereign wealth fund, Korea Investment Corporation, KIC. He spoke of 120 employees scattered across 8 cities worldwide, all working under Team Labs' umbrella. The company, he claimed, was headquartered in San Francisco for strategic reasons, even as he ran it from Singapore. Team Labs, according to Harsh, had developed multiple software products and was valued at a staggering $25 million by early 2020. Perhaps most impressively, he dropped names of blue-chip clients. He said Team Labs was partnering with the likes of Google, Airbnb, Hilton Hilton hotels, Deliveroo, and Spotify to pilot its technologies. Incredulous as it sounded, CNA reported all this with a straight face, and audiences ate it up. How could you not be impressed? A teenager from Singapore had apparently achieved what many seasoned founders only dream of. By April 2021, Harsh Dalal's rise hit its peak. Forbes included him in their 30 under 30 Asia list, a coveted honor for young innovators. He was officially a prodigy in the eyes of the world. On social media, people marveled at how a 19-year-old could run a $25 million enterprise while they were cramming for exams. But as it turned out, the fairy tale was about to unravel. The making of a prodigy was complete. Now began the unmaking. For a while, Harsh Dalal's story seemed flawless. A teenage CEO running a $25 million tech company with 120 employees and clients like Google. It was the perfect image of Singapore's next big success story. Young, ambitious, and global. But soon the story began to crack. Online, Reddit users started connecting the dots, and what they found didn't add up. Team Lab's website looked empty, its job listings were vague, and no one in the tech scene had ever heard of this supposed startup powerhouse. How could a company claiming to serve multinational giants have no traceable presence, no press releases, no footprint beyond a hollow website? The deeper people looked, the stranger it became, and before long, the entire narrative began to fall apart. Harsh had proudly claimed that Team Labs raised nearly $9.8 million from investors, an impressive figure for a 19-year-old founder. But when those names were checked, two of the supposed investors, SCV and KIC, denied any involvement at all. That left one mysterious player, a firm called Grand Canyon Capital, said to be the lead backer and mentor behind Harsh's success. Except there was almost no sign that this company actually existed. No filings, no track record, no record of any real investments. Its website was a shell filled with broken links. Grand Canyon Capital claims about having funded companies like Uber and Airbnb, and no proof to back it up. Even the domain was only registered in 2020, despite claiming the firm had been founded in 2008. When questioned about these inconsistencies, Harsh offered a tragic twist. His mentor from the firm, he said, had recently died of COVID-19. The timing was eerily convenient, arriving just as people began asking tough questions about the company's funding. But the problems didn't end with the money. Harsh often boasted that Team Labs had over 120 employees worldwide. Yet on LinkedIn, the company listed barely a dozen, and most profiles had no photos, no details, sometimes not even names. Internet sleuths quickly realized many of these employees might not exist at all. Then came the company's website, which proudly displayed an entire leadership team, until users realized the faces were stock photos. One group picture wasn't even from Team Labs. It was literally an image of Adobe's office staff taken from a 2016 Business Insider article. Once these discoveries spread online, the company began deleting everything. And then came the biggest red flag of all, so-called technology. Team Labs claimed to be building 4 groundbreaking software platforms with futuristic names like Xenon and Silicon. Harsh bragged that Xenon alone had over 750,000 code commits, or contributions to the code. But when developers went searching, they found nothing. No GitHub repositories, no reviews, no screenshots, no trace that the products even existed. Every supposed project was hidden behind closed beta pages that didn't work. When asked for a demo, Harsh promised to send access codes by the end of the week. That week came and went with no demo. And of course, journalists asked about the supposed clients, the big names that made Team Labs sound untouchable. Google, Hilton, Deliveroo, etc. For a tiny startup, landing one of them would be incredible. Landing all of them? Impossible. When pressed for proof, Harsh declined. He said the client's details were confidential. At this point, the illusion was collapsing in real time. What began as whispers on Reddit had become a full-blown scandal. For a moment, Harsh Dalal had convinced Singapore, the media, and even Forbes that he was the next great prodigy. But behind the polished interviews and big promises, there was no empire, only a story that sounded too perfect to be real. When the house of cards fell, it fell fast. On May 13, 2021, barely a month after his Forbes debut, Harsh Dalal was erased from the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, a near unprecedented move. Forbes admitted they'd reviewed new information and quietly cut him from their ranks. Back in Singapore, the fallout spread quickly. CNA edited its glowing feature, pulled down entire video interviews, and launched an internal review. Singapore Polytechnic deleted its proud post about its star student. Overnight, Harsh's name shifted from headline to liability. When questioned, Harsh deflected the blame, saying the inflated numbers and false claims all came from the mysterious investor, Grand Canyon Capital. The team, the funding, the clients, none of it, he insisted, was his doing. He said he was just the tech guy, with no executive powers. Online, the same Reddit users who first questioned his story took a victory lap. Memes and mockery flooded the comments, and then, just as quickly as he rose, Harsh vanished. He enlisted for Singapore's mandatory national service, a quiet exit from the chaos. Team Labs dissolved soon after. Its website was wiped clean, its reputation gone. Today, Harsh Dalal is in his early 20s, likely finished with his national service and living far from the spotlight. No new startups, no public ventures, no interviews. Maybe he's studying, or maybe rebuilding for something new.